Well, g'day, Max there again. Welcome back to the shop and part 4 of our series with the repairs that we are doing to the Dean Smith and Grace lathe. So, yeah, we're just working on the saddle assembly at the moment. Yeah, we would have, well, we'll get all the cross slide. It's a bit mixed up, this video, but we'll see how we go. And we're just on the finishing stages of scraping the main bed. So let's hook in. What you have to bear in mind too is throughout this process, I'm trying to get this lathe the best that I can with what I have got available to me in my shop, which is not much with regards to machine way reconditioning. I don't own any camelback straight edges or big surface plates big enough to handle this stuff. My surface plate's only small. So we're just doing the best that we can, trying to work through a logical sequence of steps to get through it. And as long as we're making improvements and not going backwards, we will be heading in the right direction. So let's crack on, and that's why I do some of the things that I do. Well, I'm slowly getting these parts cleaned up. I've just been running them through the ultrasonic cleaner. It's a pretty heavy mixed alkaline degreaser I run on that thing because, yeah, some of the parts are pretty crusty. Yeah, so I've been plodding along on this saddle and just lightly going over all of the running surfaces, just a very light crisscross scrape. And I got in here with a rotary file because it's quite, loose rust and flaky crap that was in here, so I didn't want any of that dropping down onto the slideways. This center section here where it runs on that middle way, I did give that a fairly heavy cross scrape because I don't really want that. Not sure about what's supposed to happen with that with the geometry, if it's supposed to stay in like a fraction minute clearance or not, but I give that a fairly heavy going over because I don't want that touching and the other two slides and have the thing rock. But we'll know how all that's running when we blew this thing up. So right now I'm just working on this face here. I thought, well, let's just give it a good cross scrape so we can see where it's contacting and what's going on with it. And I thought, well, let's just put a straight edge on this and see how it is looking, because normally it would wear in a convex shape due to the nature of the whole carriage assembly going backwards and forwards. So I just sit you in the stand, and I've shaded this area here because I'm going to scrape this hollow just in that area there. So if I put one of my straight edges on here, and sort of we're pivoting in this area here, I can't really feel any rock with the straight edge, and it's not the straight edge because I have another one the same that I verify each other with. But it's minutely, like it's probably only a thou of that high in the middle here. So what I want to do is relieve this center section and then see how it comes up when we blew it up on the slideways on the lathe. Because we've got to be very careful what we do here, because if you do it wrong, you'll upset the geometry of your cross slide. So, and your cross slide's supposed to face slightly concave. It's only very slightly, so that's what you've got to be careful not to upset. And if it's not facing concave, this is probably the easiest correction you could do, I think, rather than try and realign a dovetail. But yeah, let me just get this relieved out here, and then I think that's pretty well this part done. It's ready for a test fit. But yeah, I haven't been working on it today at all, except for now I'm just starting back on it, as I've had a couple more of these axle housings come in. These are the ones where I do the flame spray build up on the bearing journals and remachine them down for the bearings. I've done a lot of those now. Okay, let's get you set up and we'll scrape the center. Okay, I'll go back from the other direction. I'll probably have to take one more, the same. So that's pivoting there right on the edge of where we've scraped, and likewise there right on the edge of where we've scraped. So we've moved the area out. So We'll do another pass where we were, then I'll extend this out 2 inches, 50 mil either side. Actually, no, what I'll do is I'll just take the whole lot, 2 inches on either side. I'll mark it all in blue. It makes it easier to see where I've been. So I'll take that out now in its entirety, one pass this angle and then come back the opposite way. I'll bring you back when I've done it. Okay, I've taken this as far as I'm going to take it. So we're in total clearance under the middle. We've got a heavy contact area up near the end, and we have one likewise down this end too. So these, I'm not going to chase any further. They are what they are, and if we choose to take them further, we will be using the lathe bed way as a reference. What will happen if we start messing with this too much, we'll throw out our cross slide geometry in relation to the spindle. Now, I mentioned before, I'm doing this whole project without the aid of proper camelback straight edges or anything like that, and that's because I do not have any. They're hard to get over here, and even if you do get them, you've got to have them qualified and make sure that the things are actually flat or straight. What I'm using to help me, and I know these are quite reasonable, these are straight edges, and yeah, it's not the right way to do it with blue on the thin edge like that, but it is what we are using, and it is giving us a result. So what we're going to do now is check, do a similar check on this face here. Make sure that the center is not higher than the edges, and likewise its other running surface down here. Yeah, you need, if that center's higher, your carriage is going to rock. So I'll get this flipped over and we'll have a look. Okay, just looking at the underside, if we look at this section here, so we've got a fair area just here where we're sort of contacting the most, you know, and when I look at that and what we've got over the other here, which actually is pretty good, or you know, it is quite, I'm looking where these edges are pivoting and it's sort of around here. Alright, it's a bit sort of there, probably a bit heavy here, you know, and the other end's pivoting there. Let's turn this edge over. See, we come over here and our pivot changes up here, so, and likewise, you know, down here. So I'm reluctant to do anything with that. So when you look at that and then you look at this point here, that gives 3 really good points for it to sit on, and it shouldn't give us any issues with rocking. If we start monkeying with this, trying to get full contact over here, we're going to end up in a situation where we're only going to be, when it's on the lathe bed, it's only going to be landing in an area sort of, could be on the edge here or this edge here, and it's not what you want, you know. Now you could end up with a problem where you are contacting here and here, and then you start getting a rock here, you know, and then you're going to be chasing your tail like big time. You can't really rely, because this is pretty close. If it was totally fucked, then I would seriously look at using these machined edges here as a bit of a reference. But like, we don't know how flat this is, you know, and we've got no way to check it. My surface plate's not big enough. So we are going to leave this well alone here, and we'll just check it when it's on the bed of the machine. However, there is one area down. I'll swing it around, because when we bring our straight edge over, I'll show you from a different angle. This gap that we have here. Okay, so you start riding up into the unworn section of the underside. Now that's where the radius and the clearance radius on the bed is. So this is where I've got to be very careful that we do leave that in clearance. So I'm going to give it a bit of an extra bit of relief all the way down where that blue line is. That way I know I'm not going to have any interference I do not want from the bed. This side doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter, because the gib strip will overhang the wear, and once we scrape the gib will go in further, and so this lip here is not going to be an issue, or shouldn't be. And I think I mentioned earlier, I did give this a rather heavy going over. This is where the centre way is, and I'm not actually sure that it's supposed to be contacting or just in a couple of thou clearance. I'm not sure what their thinking is on here, and the reason I say it's possible it has to be in a couple of thou clearances, because before I started cleaning any of this up, I could see evidence of the original Dean Smith and Grace flaking on the edges adjacent to where everything runs on the two main ways, but on this centre way I could only see the milling marks. I could not see any evidence of the original flaking, so that's what sort of brings me to think that maybe this is supposed to be just in clearance. I mean, the worst thing you could want is for this to be high and then the whole saddle would start rocking. So yeah, we will be bluing this and double checking this on the lathe bed to make sure it is in clearance. So only needs a little bit, but it needs to be there, I think. Okay, so I'll give this some clearancing here. Yeah, just along here, and then that's the underside taken care of. So then we'll flip her over and have a bit of a clean up on the cross slide ways. So we're just doing an extremely light crosshatch scrape across the whole entire surface. It's very light and it will have no dimensional changes to the part whatsoever. It's that small. And the reason why I'm doing that, first reason is to get some consistency in the finish over the whole thing. And the other reason, which is a secondary reason, it's just for aesthetics, so it looks good. Especially you look at the tail end of the slide in these areas here, you know, and there is a bit of rust pitting, you know, rust damage like in this area here. It's absolute minimalistic, but this will cover all that up. And as minimalistic as it is, it should help too with our bearing surface as well. You can't blue up on a smooth surface, otherwise it just smears. But that being said, our scraping is that light too. It's not heavy enough to get a good print. So, but it's better than the surface that was there. So I'll bring you back when we finish this and you'll see how it came up. Should come up really good. So we'll just run this indicator down. We're on about a 46, yeah, we're over the 46 inch specification. I'll show you that later on. We're actually coming up pretty good. Oops. Okay, right at the very end there, little hollow, but it doesn't really matter there. We're at the end of the bed tailstock, so I'll run back the other way. We're just coming up to our gap here now. So sort of maximum about half a thou deviation realistically. And that's running, you know, with our 1, 2, 3 block on our scrape surface and the indicator stylus running off our master reference way here. So that's brought the inside edge here that we've been scraping back to tolerance where it's supposed to be. Probably now I need to go and pick up on our contact points per inch. Yeah, we've just been doing that with our roughing scraper. So just using Connolly's machine tool reconditioning book as a bit of a reference guide, you know, for recon standards. Tool room lathes over 48 inches. That's 48 inches is the distance we were going over. For a tool room lathe, it's half a thou and 48 inches. Well, I'd say we're close to that. I'd say we're definitely fallen 7.5 ten thousandths of an inch per 48 inches. That's on a 12 to 18 inch lathe, and we're well within the 1 thou on a 20 to 36 inch lathe. So this lathe here falls sort of, yeah, in between those two, 18, 20 inches type thing. I haven't actually measured it. But if we look up the specs on our machine, we're 17.5 inch swing. Alright, well that's the front way completed now as far as width, squareness and parallelism. So really happy with the way that came out, being as we are below the limits of what's set out in that Connolly's book for reconditioning. Probably not going to get a good shot. I'll see if I can, oops. It's hard to get a good shot in here, but no, it's all come up well. Now, as far as contact points per inch, you really need a good straight edge to do that. I was just using this 1, 2, 3 block setup with some bluing compound on it, and that was to ensure that I was staying square, and that's all I used that for. It's not a good, you can't really get any good spotting results from it. It's just too short, too smooth. So, well, it is what it is, you know. So, when you compare what we have to the original DSG, little bit of flaking there. We're not that far off it, you know, where we need to be. So I'm going to call that good. So we are doing the final touches of our gap now. Here doesn't matter. Oh, excuse me. Here we are 0, 0, slightly low, so there's nothing we can do there. That is what it is. Here we're coming up zeros, level with here. And we start to get an increase of +3, +2, +2.5, +2, and +1, and it drops back off. So we need to take some of this down till we level this. I was just thinking, once I've taken care of this area here, what I might do is scrape in the gib strip for the carriage, and that way we'll be able to use that as a straight edge, and we can blue that up and just check our ways on the sides that we've scraped, and we can check our parts per square inch of contact. It's probably the only way I've got to do it. Okay, we'll get our indicator set up and we'll have another measure. It'll take a few goes this to get it to where we need to be. Okay, I'll start pecking away, just as you've seen, concentrating more on the high areas and slowly bring it back level. So I want to be heavier here on the end. What I'll do, I'll just go a short section there, quite heavy, and then I'll step scrape it. So that means, just this area first, then I'll do this area, and then one final pass. Okay, after our first full step scrape pass, remember we scraped to there and then we went down to there. It's coming up quite even now, so we're pretty, within quarter of a thou variation. We're pretty well 1 thou high over most of this pad. So I'll do 2 even passes over the whole pad, and then we'll have another measure and see if we come up closer to our 3-0 lines here. I'm not sure if I've ever shown these scraping tools that I use. So this first one here is my roughing scraper, and this one here is a finishing scraper. These two here come from Anderson Tools here in Australia. Very beautifully made. As with this one here, this one is from Matthew Look over in the UK. He actually has a YouTube channel, and he's done a cracking job a fair while ago doing a full recon scrape-in of a Holbrook lathe. So that one's from Matthew Look. And Magnus, pretty sure it's Magnus Anderson, spelt with a double S, here in Australia for these ones here. And he also does the carbide ends for them as well. So, very high quality bits of gear, very nicely made and comfortable. Okay, we've come up good here, nice and level here. I did overcook it by 1/2 thou in this area here though, but okay. And we knocked the top off this to bring this down level as well, although it does nothing, so should be all good. You can see there where there are places where we can't touch, but it is what it is. Okay, so with regards to the underside, we've taken that as far as we're going to take it, and we need to take it over and blue it up and just have a bit of a visual and see how things are travelling underneath, just in different spots. And that will, at least we'll have a bit of an indication maybe of what's going on due to the wear in the top of the bed as well. So that's ready for a test fit. Right, so before we get too seriously involved in this, we're just going to have a look at the gib strip for the saddle. Now, with regards to what's supposed to run on what here, I wasn't quite sure because everything is running on everything. Like the dovetail runs on all 4 ways plus the 2 angled ways. Normally in a lathe it's just these outer 2 and the angled ways, which would be these 2 here and these 2 here, and this entirety would be running in clearance. But I was just speaking to a machine tool reconditioner that I know over the other side of the country, and I know he's had a fair bit of dealings with Dean Smith and Grace stuff, and he says yes, it's how they have them. They do run on all 4 surfaces, so now we know where we're heading. We should not be running in the middle, so his advice was to just slightly relieve the center section here, because we don't want it running on this area here. So if we just give that a few thou relief, and then we can check this and get this fitting correctly eventually. It does have a pretty wicked tight spot in it, but it's not quite as straightforward as you might think, the procedure. I'll show you. So I can run a 1.5 thou feeler gauge through most of the length of this area except for the end. So we'll go down to the other side. And we know this straight edge is straight. We're pretty well duplicating it there. Not as much, nowhere near the same extent there. And to some extent across that area there. So what we have to do, what's recommended to me, we have to set this on the bed of the lathe before we do any more checking on here, like what we just checked. We need to bolt the apron up while this is on the bed. So this is sitting with all its natural weight on it, and it can alter what we're seeing here. So we need to do that and verify if anything has changed. Because if we say scraped all this flat here on the bench and then go and hang our apron off it, you get a little bit, if there's any flex and all that, it will throw this out of whack. So that's one thing we have to do. And before we do any bluing and checking underneath, we're going to have to follow the same procedure. We're going to have to bolt or check it. I want to check it with the weight of the apron assembly on it. So yeah, that sort of complicates things and creates a lot of extra work, but it's the path that we're going to go down, as it was recommended by me, by someone who does a lot of this work. So that's what we're going to do. So I've just temporarily sat our saddle on the bed just to have a look at this gib strip. It's going to require a fair bit of work, so I was just wondering how much we had left before it bottomed out, and we'd have to start shimming it. So we've got about 15 millimeters of travel before it disappears, and I have a feeling that most of that's going to get gobbled up with the little bit of work that we have to do to it. So let's get it out and we'll head over to the surface plate. So looking at the rear of the gib, it's a bit of a weird arrangement. It rides on this raised center section here, and the edges don't do anything, they're in clearance. So when I put this down here and look, I can drive a double-decker bus under there. So that's not good. That needs to be somewhat flat. We'll just take a 1/6 thou feeler. That's all hollow under there. There's a high spot there, hollow. So between here and here we're hollow. Hollow. We come down to a 1/4 thou. So this isn't touching. Yeah, so we'd be touching across there. And at the end, so yeah, we need to sort of improve that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to find the highest locations, I'll mark them. Because it's a fair whack to scrape off, that's a lot. And the problem is going to be, because it's on such a narrow band, is keeping that narrow band parallel with this main running face. Otherwise the thing's just going to sit weird, it's not going to sit properly. So I think the best way that I can do it is pick the high spots, and we'll grip this in twin vices on the milling machine. We'll indicate it in, picking up off our high spots, and we'll just lower those high spots. We don't have to have 100% all the way across, but as long as we've got quite a few high spots all the way across, you know. We'll see how we go. We'll see how it looks once we've got it clamped in the machine. So yeah, I'll get a couple of vices set up on the milling machine. Probably Big Olga is going to be the most accurate machine to do it in over this length. So we'll do that. Okay, there's a few humps and bumps in this thing. This very end bit drops away quite substantially. Let's run the indicator across it. So that's just a bit of an average of what's going on. So let's put a cutter in and we'll just knock the high spots off and we'll see what it's looking like. So we did have to be a bit careful the way that we clamped this, in a way that we weren't clamping a twist or a curve in to the best of what we can. So yeah, it was just a bit of toing and froing between the two vices, you know, clamping one, slackening the other, and backwards and forwards, just to, you know, so the thing's held as best that we can in its natural position. So yeah, let's get a cutter in and just knock off these high spots and see what we're looking at. No, I think that'll have the desired effect. That end there does drop off a fair amount, you know. So we got really good contact through there and through the end. A couple of light spots there, but I'm not interested in chasing those. There's enough backing now that's straight. Well, we can scrape straight on, and when we check this on our surface plate now, so let's get her out and check it. Right, yeah, it was just those couple of light spots there, and we know we were never going to get that cleaned up because that drops off a fair bit there. So we roll this over. We're not too far out of whack really now. Sort of pivoting sort of there. And up here-ish. Mind you, because you've got a lot more weight at this end than this end as well. And I can hear the gap. You can hear the noise change to where we come up solid. I could possibly just clamp this in the two vices. I might just draw file just a section here just to be on the safe side, I think. So I'll do that. Right, we'll try that. Okay, so we've got a couple of big obvious high spots we need to sort of get rid of. And then we'll take those down. Okay, we'll have another test over at the plate. Couple of heavy spots there in the middle. Okay, I'll have a mess around with this and bring you back when it's finished. Okay, so I've been over this a few times with the scraper, so let's have another look and see how we are travelling. I think that's not too bad. Remembering this rear area drops off quite a lot. Getting a fair bit of smearing down there because we haven't really done much down there, so might actually give it one more scrape session. Might break that area down there up a little bit. And we are hinging in a better spot now too. Sort of down here and up here. So yeah, no, we're looking quite good. I'm actually tempted to let this go as it is. So, yeah, I think I will. I think I'll just let that go as it is. Let's just sit. Yeah, so we're quite high on when we flip it over. So she's got a bit of a banana to it going that way, which we need to get out. So what I'm going to have to do with this one, I'm going to have to scrape the whole surface. And then we'll start working in from the edges. Okay, we'll take this over to the plate and have a look, see where we're heading. So what I'm aiming is to get some reasonable length of contact there and possibly down here. I'm not really interested in the middle at this stage as long as we're not high in the middle, which we're not going to be because of the curve that was in it. I just want to get it somewhere because we need to fit this in the machine because we have to ensure we keep the correct angle. There's no point scraping all this perfectly flat to the wrong angle, so it's going to be a bit of a trial and error fitting. Be a fair old bow in this because we are very heavy here, picking up here. So let me just go and just rip a bit off this end and then we'll recheck it. Just check it with a feeler gauge. So I've got an 1/8 thou feeler gauge here. If I look through to the light, yeah, you can drive a bus under here. So there's a fair whack I need to take off that. I think all I'm going to do, if I can get a couple of inches of contact on here and some contact back there, I think that's going to put us in a reasonable position for a test fit. Because, yeah, we ain't got much travel left on this gib before it will require shimming, so we sort of got to tread very carefully how we go. We don't want to be taking it off there unnecessarily when on a test fit it shows a lot's got to come off here, and that will reduce this bow in it here as well. We've still got a big hollow there, but yeah, well, that's due to that bend that was in it, but it's getting there. The other thing I'm fighting with, this is moving all of the time. Hinging there and there, but there's been 2 occasions I've had to relieve the centre of this, as it's like it keeps bending while I'm scraping. So we've got a 1/6 thou feeler now, and we can only get that in that short distance there. So we're well on the way, but a long way to go. And there's our hollow. We need to get as much of this out as we can. I don't mind if we're a bit hollow in the middle, a bit light on it in the middle, but I want good contact at least through to about there, and from there through to the end. So we might, back into the vise, and away we go again for the 600th time. Well, our 6 thou gap there, it's getting smaller. before, yeah, we've got to get 1/8 thou in most of the way along it. So that was a pretty heavy scrape that we did, which is fine as we're trying to close up this gap. So we'll keep going till that gap gets smaller. Right, this is as far as I'm going to take this at the moment. We're close enough to start doing some test fitting now. So at least we've got that massive, well, an 1/8 thou feeler gauge fell under it. So we're actually pretty good now. The thing I've been fighting, and it's still happening, is it's been continuously moving. So every couple of scrapes I do on this side, I've had to relieve a bit more out the centre, and we are a fraction high in the centre again, so I'll take a bit more of that out before we do a test fit. But I think for now, yeah, we'll call it. Well, okay, I think we'll bring this one to a close here. I'm starting to get a bit sick of scraping. I need to do something else for a while on the machine. So, yeah, we're ready for a test fit now with our geb. So I've got the screws, the adjuster screws are missing, so I've got to make up new adjuster screws and work out my plan of attack, exactly how I'm going to get all this done. As we still have to check our contact between the saddle and the bed as well. So I've probably got a good solid 16 hours of scraping to get the bow out of this geb. Yeah, it was a fairly massive undertaking. So yeah, it's quite time consuming stuff. So you guys just got to see 5 minutes of it. Okay, well, all right, cheers. Thanks for watching, and yeah, join us in the next episode where we will be continuing on with something on our DSG lathe. Cheers.